welcome back to the ASPA podcast. My name is Lily Koesh Johnson. I'm the marketing intern for ASPA, and I'm joined here by Brian Murphy. Brian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning, Lily, and good morning, ASPA members. Brian Murphy here. I'm the Chief of Strategy and Organizational Development here in Toledo Public Schools. Been in the district for about 27 years, have been ASPA member for a long time, have presented at the national conference and a lot of other conferences, and big supporter of ASPA, big supporter of the great work that they're doing. So glad to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I'm so excited to be sitting down with you today because we're going to be talking about AI, if I'm correct.
Yes, AI. So part of my job as the Chief of Strategy Organizational Development is to look at all the new innovative things that are happening out there in the world. AI is certainly in the front path of all of that. So I wouldn't say I'm an expert in AI, but when it comes to pre-K, 12 education, I work a lot with our IT folks, along with a lot of the departments. So we're having a lot of conversation around AI. So I think we're a little ahead of the curve, or at least I know a little bit more than the average educator. So I'd be happy to talk about some of those things here today that we're doing and kind of some of the things that we're seeing as well.
Yeah, this seems like a super hot button topic. A lot of new news is coming out about it, and I think education is really trying to hop on it and use it to the fullest potential. So, can
Yes,
you share a
absolutely.
little bit of your overall perspective on how AI is influencing K-12 education?
Yeah, so I think first, I think it's important for everybody to know the difference between non-generative AI, or just what people refer to AI, and then generative AI. So non-generative AI is really some good examples would be like image recognition. So when you talk about or you think about people using Google Photos or face recognition systems, things like that. That's a good example. Another good example would be natural language processing, such as like everybody uses Siri or Alexa, the language translation. Others would be like Netflix, recommendation on systems for video, Netflix, Amazon, a couple good examples. Predictive analysis, like financial trading algorithms or weather forecasting models would be a couple of good examples. And then lastly, I would say, which is a big one, and probably in my mind, when I think about the most advanced, robotics and automation, self-driving cars, manufacturing robotics, things like that. And that's, I tell you, in Toledo Public Schools, that's something we're diving into. We have a program that we literally just purchased 3 Teslas, and our kids are working on them each and every day, learning more about robotics and automation, and it's really preparing them for their future and jobs of the future in the market. So we're very excited about that moving forward. And then I think, the other part is the generative AI, which is a little bit more advanced and more complicated, I think, for people, but really it's more simplistic. It's something that I use more and more all the time, like text generation, Chat GPT or GPT-3 is a couple good examples. Helps write essays, poems, articles, things like that. And then image generation, there's some good examples of that. Another would be music and art creation. I know there's deep art, and that, it generates artwork, and it applies artistic, styles to photos and so forth. And then I think lastly, code generation, which really is all about programming code based on natural language prompts and things like that. So yes, 2 very different things. I think the generative AI is what I'm most excited about moving forward, because it really can dive down into solving real-time issues on the spot in the moment without doing a ton of research. So to answer your original question, after kind of setting that stage a little bit, I see in K to 12 education or pre-K to 12 education, some of the main areas that things are happening is around student use, students using AI or not, should they use it or not? What constitutes, cheating or plagiarism when you talk about that? That's a fine line there.
Yeah.
Student literacy, what types of learning should we be integrating into the curriculum related to, AI use and so forth. And then teacher use. I think that's another one. I mean, how do we prepare teachers to be successful using AI tools with students and using data to drive some of that with AI? And then I think lastly, the overall operations of an organization, especially when we talk about human resources, human capital management, when you think about it from a strategy perspective, how can we leverage and use AI to help us with our strategy to be more efficient? I know here in our district, as I mentioned, we're constantly talking about AI. We're talking about it more and more all the time. We constantly watch the news, the social media, and we're researching it. We're curious about what other districts are doing around AI and generative AI. And there's not a lot of it out there currently, but it is, beginning to take off. And then, we have teachers and principals that we know that they're using AI specifically as a tool currently. And we've had recent conversations that right now we don't even have a board policy on AI, and that's something that we're researching right now. And then, of course, I've been talking with IT about data security and privacy. That's always important when it comes to those things. And I think it's something that a lot of people still have avoided AI. I know for myself, in the beginning, I really didn't understand it or know what it was as I go back even probably 18 months ago. And I was a little afraid of it, honestly. Like, what is this? I don't know how this can help me. I keep hearing this word. I don't even know what it means, right? But the more I, really dove into it and explored it, I've found immediate benefits from using it, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think that you hit the nail right on the head that a lot of people have some anxiety about it, kind of since it's so new. But how specifically are you using AI, like currently in your school district?
Yeah, so I would say most of our leadership team, and specifically me, in the last 14 months, that's when I started exploring it 14, 18 months ago. And since then, I found some efficiencies, like in simple things, like things you wouldn't even realize could create so much efficiency, like emails. So a lot of times, if I need to write an email on a specific topic, I may write in my main points, or I may write in the first paragraph or something like that for the email into like a chat GPT, and it literally will write the email for me. And so um, now sometimes I will always go back and read the email and I'll make some quick adjustments. But when it comes to, some of the emails that are longer, that are very important and words are important, you want to sound as professional as possible or friendly as possible. You literally can put that information into AI and it will generate, those emails in that manner. Um, Same thing with letters. When if I have to write a letter of recommendation for somebody, which I do a lot, or a letter to a partner that's out in the community or a business partner, whatever it may be, a lot of times I'll use AI to write that information for me. And again, I just plug the information in and it gives me a sample letter, and then I'll go in and make some edits to it, and it's done very professionally and it's done well. And then I would say more recently, in the last 6 months or so, I've been using it for strategy for our district. Great examples are post-COVID. We really, just like a lot of other school districts across the country, are struggling not just with student but staff, absenteeism, mental health, and trying to combat, and provide intervention to our staff and our students to get them in school, get them into work, and help them deal with some of their mental health challenges. So I'll enter information into AI, such as, best strategies to approach student chronic absenteeism or teacher absenteeism, things like that. And AI will pull all this information together from the most researched items out there and most successful items out there based on the research and implementation, and provide me with a plan and a strategy. And some great ideas come from that. I use a lot of them. Um, that research alone, having the contract services out to pay for that research or for me to spend the time researching that is a significant time saving for me. Another tool I used it for recently was staff retention and recruitment planning. I needed to put together a more recent plan for that, and I used AI to help me with that. And then just in general, efficiency in operations, just for various things that come up. I'll use Chat GPT for that. And then I think the second thing is more from a personal level, my personal health. I mean, I'll use AI to design workout plans for me, to stay fit, or whether it's, a specific diet that I need for my body based on, my blood indicators and my blood work or my genetics or whatever it may be. AI is great for that. And a lot of times if someone, I always make a recommendation to people that if they're ill and they have some similar, if they have symptoms that are multiple symptoms, you literally can go in AI, put in all of your symptoms, and it will instantly tell you 2, 3, 4 different things that could be the issue. So that way, when you go to the doctor, you already know going in what your symptoms are and the diagnosis, honestly. And it's very useful for that. So I just say that because I think health is very important, as we talked about mental health in the past and the challenges with that. And I think using it for that purpose is really good. And all of these things that I tell you that I use it for are free versions on Chat GPT. I use Chat GPT the most, Chat on AI. I don't pay a dime right now for, subscriptions for that. Now I have thought about, as much as I use it, I probably are going to have to transition to the paid version here soon. But to this point, the free version has done me well and a lot of our district leaders well at this point.
Yeah, so I feel like in a lot of the media, they're always trying to scare you about this one certain thing. Are you concerned at all that AI is going to be taking jobs in education?
No, definitely not. At least not at this point. I do think you hear a lot. You're correct. You hear a lot in the media about AI and about AI taking over the world and things like that. And I do think that's a separate conversation outside of, K to 12 education. At least for, K to 12 education, I think AI can really augment and improve our work, and it's not going to necessarily replace great numbers of people and public, education. I think it does help with efficiencies. I mean, AI, as I mentioned, is a great tool for research and handling repetitive tasks. And it really helps leaders focus more of their time on strategy work, rather than planning. And I always say, and, in a lot of my presentations that I do, we find ourselves in public education spending all of our time on the daily grind of operations and operating a district rather than planning. And we really need to spend more planning. I mean, most districts spend 85, 90% of their time with daily operations and maybe 10% planning. And really, you need to really focus in probably half your time doing some planning and some strategy, and that will improve your operations. And AI really just helps support that for those that are trying to do that.
Yeah, so what are some promising tools that you found have helped you specifically for a HR in the school district?
Well, I think first it's important that we all start somewhere, and we all uh, are willing to at least try to use it, and if not, we're going to be left behind. Those educators out there that are still going to avoid AI over the next 24 months are going to be left behind if they don't really start diving into this. So I think some promising applications, content creation, whether it's for recruiting or specifically for websites and social media. I mean, I think, those are some promising things. I think employee websites and optimizing messaging. A lot of times I'll see, employment websites and their messaging doesn't necessarily align to, how they're communicating their district strategy or their values and things like that. So I think optimizing messaging would be a great way to do that. And I think a really important one for leaders, we always talk about in K-12 education, it's that, it's tough to find very well-equipped leaders that are experienced, that really have a diverse background and can have the experience, and they have a knowledge base of a lot of different competencies to be, really good leaders. And I really think we can use AI to help with personalized learning paths, or lack of a better word, customized learning experiences for the adult learner, or leaders in K-12 education. I see that improving engagement. I see it improving outcomes. I see it really as identifying the strengths and weaknesses in leaders, and then have a scripted professional development for, specific leaders on how they can improve. I know in TPS, we're big on leadership competencies. I think, at previous ASPA conferences, there's been presentations on that. I've presented on that myself as well. And in TPS, we're big on competencies. And when I say competencies, it's really behaviors of leaders, whether it's building collaborative relationships, or we want our leaders to be systems thinkers or change managers, or we want them to take personal accountability. And competencies really define what those things look like. So in TPS, the point that what we're trying to get to is that for every new leader that we bring in the district, we want some type of assessment process that identifies their leadership strengths and weaknesses. And then we want to design plan for them to help them grow as leaders. And we see AI helping us in that journey. We've been talking about that, and we've been beginning to design what that looks like in the future. And I'm really excited about that, because I think it could, any organization has, exceptional leaders, a lot of satisfactory leaders, and, some leaders that, they perform below what the expectations are. I truly believe a design program like this can really increase your leadership and their skills and abilities moving forward.
Yeah.
So that's the big one for TPS. And then I think a couple other ones quickly, just like, HR and organizational data, just analysis of that, summarizing exit or stay, survey information, which, a lot of us do, especially ASPA members that are running school districts. Creation of job descriptions, and that's something that we do in TPS. We have some of the best job descriptions, and we stay on top of our game when it comes to that. And one of the first things that we do in our standard operating procedures around creating new jobs, or editing current job descriptions when we're doing reorganizations within departments and so forth, is we put in AI, for example, provide us a job description for example, a school nurse, and it will provide us with a very detailed job description. And of course, we take that information as a baseline, and then we build what that job description should look like in Toledo Public Schools. And most of the time, we take probably 75-80% of what AI is recommending, and then we make edits or we make changes to the other 20-25%. So
Yeah, you like
again,
grow on that. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, very efficient process. I mean, it's really helped us. It's been a huge time saver for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are any potential risks or challenges about implementing AI into education that concern you?
Well, there still could be many in the future, just because AI is still so new, and we're still early in K-12 education as well. But I'd say the most significant ones currently that come to my mind, I think data and privacy and security for our students and our staff is always in the forefront of that. I mean, cybersecurity, that's always an issue, protecting data for our students and staff. And I think not just in education, but in private and public sectors, that's a challenge everywhere. You're always seeing that on the news, where there's some type of data breach or something like that. The second one, I think bias and fairness. I think, there's still going to be potential for bias in all AI algorithms. It's people that build the AI algorithm. So as long as people are building that from the beginning, there's potential to have bias in that. So I think it's important for educators and others and leaders to double check, AI's decisions and evaluate it for fairness and have a process for that. Whether it's, your selection and placement process, whether it's staff recruiting process, any parts of human capital management, I mean, the AI is used, I think it's going to be important to continuously check for that bias and fairness from a legal perspective. And then lastly, I think it is a legal, as I said, legal perspective. I think it's those legal implications. I know states all over the country are having conversations around AI and how to use it when it comes to human capital management and people decisions. And while it's very exciting to me, I love reading about and hearing on social media or seeing it on social media about some of the current rules and regulations around some of that stuff. I think some states are ahead of others in that game. I know in Ohio, I mentioned earlier that most districts in Ohio do not have a board policy or even HR standard operating procedures around AI. And our Ohio School Boards Association here just released a draft board policy that school districts can take a look at. I just looked at the other day actually because it's kind of hot off the press, and just first glance at it, it's pretty general policy because I think there's still a lot of unknowns about AI. So it really allows school districts to make a lot of their own decisions, and I think it's reflective of kind of what Ohio law is as well around AI. It's pretty general at this point because there's too many unknowns to date.
Yeah, absolutely. So where should ASPA members start when implementing AI into their school districts?
Well, I'd say the first thing that I would do as a ASPA member and somebody that really supports ASPA, I know that there's going to be plenty of AI presentations at national conferences for ASPA coming up. So I would encourage people to attend those conferences, whether it's in person or virtual, and look for those AI presentations. I think there's going to be a lot of exciting information that's going to come from that. I know ASPA has been working hard on a micro credential that they have in the works that's related to AI. So that's really exciting as well. I mean, that's really going to help leaders and HR leaders, across the country be comfortable with AI, learn about AI, and really show them how they can apply it in their job each and every day to help them be more efficient and more effective in what they do. I say experiment and share with others. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid just to really just start using it and see how it works for you, whether it's in your personal life or your job. And then, encourage others to do the same. Use those free, tools out there in AI, especially generative tools such as, Chat GPT and others. And then, positive framing, making sure that we're focusing on the positive impacts of AI and let's transform education for the better, and use it, in a positive way. And I think unfortunately there's still not a lot of resources out there, related to AI. I think that really helps. Well, there's some resources for students and teachers for sure. I mean, there's a lot of those all over the place. But in terms of from a leadership perspective or a management perspective of an organization or school district, running, an HR division, there's just not a lot of resources yet. So I think it really puts ASPA in a unique position, and a perfect position to really lead the conversation. I think, that's why I appreciate being here today with the forefront thinking of ASPA around this topic, and really wanted to at least begin educating folks on what AI is and how they could potentially use it in K-12 education or pre-K to education. So even though I'm not necessarily an expert in the area, at least we're getting some information out there to ASPA members about maybe where to start and some things to think about. So I think it's great. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think AI is the way of the future, and we're very much so in its infancy. So, kind of getting used to that is a big thing. So, Brian, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so just on LinkedIn, I have a LinkedIn account. I'd be happy to share that out. I am actually running for a board seat with ASPA recently, so you're going to see some information coming out about that as well. So I would appreciate any support and vote that I'd get for that. But I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn as well, so you can find me both on those platforms, and I'm connected usually through all ASPA platforms as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. This was a fabulous podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week.
I absolutely will.